And so I just want to welcome you all. This is the second pledge community call, but the first one that is scheduled to recur. That we had a meeting a few weeks ago, and a few of you have joined since then. So it's we're adding to the mix of people. And the first pledge call was really just us getting to know each other and seeing who was here. And we'll want to do a little bit more of that again. But today, what I really want to spend a lot of our time on is I've been blending finance models this morning and have a prototype of a finance model that I'd like to talk with you all about. And that could help us get a larger sense of the kind of work we're going to be doing to support the Ecoversity and Earth regenerators and Earth regeneration, regardless of affiliation. And so I want to get to that. But what I'd love to do is just do like a little opening circle. And so that we do get a chance to chat. A lot of us know each other, but we don't all know each other. It's almost like most of us know each other, and then Hans is here. Hans, who I know from a meeting in Cologne many years back, and then some lovely time together in Brixen in northern Italy. And then later in Germany in 2018, wasn't that we went to that lovely castle together?
Yes,
yeah. Exactly. And so it's almost like Hans needs to know everyone else, and everyone needs to know Hans. But so let's just do a little opening, and maybe in an opening, just say your name, how you're doing. Just like, how are you doing? And anything you'd like to share about why you're in the pledge community. So it can be just like, why are you here? Why are you in this group? And it could be whatever you feel like sharing. And maybe I will ask to put someone on the spot. Rachel, would you go after me? Would that be okay? I mean, everyone knows me. Hi, I'm Joe, and I won't say more about why I'm here. I'll just say that I'm coming really invigorated by the meeting with Willem Verweerde last week, Willem from Commonland, and you'll see inspiration from that meeting in the conversation today. And that I plan to tell more of the story of Willem's visit in the Barichara updates call tomorrow, where I'll actually share photos and tell the story and record it. So we can go lighter on that today and go heavier on that tomorrow. And then I'll pass it on to Rachel.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rachel Olson, currently in Madison, Wisconsin for a few more weeks. And then I will be going back to Barichara for the foreseeable future. So excited about that. I think the reason I am part of, I won't even say I think, I know the reason I'm part of this effort is that I think my past history in organizational development and human development and how we relate with the resources that we have sort of galvanized me into a sense that where your treasure is, there is your heart, and where your heart is, there is your treasure, and that for my own reasons, I need to be able to literally put my money where my mouth and my heart are in order to move myself forward. But I think it's also pivotal that, and I don't just mean all capital, we'll just say all capital. But in this case, I think money is particularly important because that is, it's the rocket fuel, that's what's going to free up. And, that's the seeds that get planted that free up what we want to see. And I sense that people struggle with that. I know I struggle with that. And I want to be part of supporting how I move forward with this, but also how we help each other move forward with this. So I hope that's clear. And I will pass to Lisa.
I just joined the call. What are we talking about?
The prompt was to just say hello and briefly, how are you? And then just some brief sharing of why you're here in this group, so we can start to put that context together.
Okay, hello. I am doing well. I thought that, a small bit of what I heard Rachel say resonated with me. After having, explored a lot in kind of the alternative economics space and being part of lots of different projects, I realized that financial resources are really important. So I wanted to contribute. That's pretty much okay. I'll pass to, has Dan gone yet?
No, I think I'm the only Dan here. Yeah, hi. I'm actually under a ton of pressure. I'm at nearing the end of my plan to extract myself from this, I'll say, Wedico Western society here in Sacramento, California. I've, for more than a year, made a decision to contribute to the Barichara effort, trying to help secure Las Albercas to kind of give us a foothold there with the Ecoversity and contribute to those efforts as well. My plan, and when I haven't really talked about this much, which is part of why I'm here to this committee, is to help us, contribute to however we go about constructing, the sustainable and the repeatable and the, what these policies and ideas and how we're going to get that all done, so that we have an ongoing, I'll say, way financially. I have some project management skills. I'm retired from AT&T, so that's kind of those are the skills that I hope I can bring to this effort. I did get wrecked. I wasn't the only one, I think, with the crypto collapse that happened. We expected things to continue in January, but they didn't. They kind of went the opposite, and so that really hurt. And also, I'm struggling to get my house sold, which I was really surprised, because I have a beautiful property that I was willing to trade for this whole idea. And now I'm right at the wire. Now we've had a couple of failed buyers who couldn't perform, and but now I got a buyer now, and I'm thinking that this is gonna finish out here by the end of the month, so that we can turn around and make that purchase. Anyway, that's kind of the big prize right now, is getting that thing done. I'd really like to hear from Dr. Hans. If you want to step in now, sir, can you take the baton?
Yes, thank you all, and happy to see you and get to know you. Now, Joe just said that we have a long-standing relationship starting in, I think it was 2013 or something, when we met in Cologne, and then there were occasions when Joe gave a seminar at one of our summer forums at the Terra Institute in Brixton, which was very well received. And we had a fireside chat later. And so I'm following the Barichara initiatives from the distance, and I've never been involved. Only lately I chipped in some funds. And why am I doing that? Because I'm deeply convinced that those grassroots movements are needed more than ever before, because the old system is collapsing. The old system is broken beyond repair. And if we don't build new systems, there's no place to survive, basically. Yeah, we're seeing those mega crises around the globe, not to speak about war, but flooding and drought and you name it. It's really getting hard to survive. So what I'm doing, I'm a business consultant working on system change with all kinds of businesses, from the food sector, pharma, tooling, and so forth. And it's an uphill struggle, because the old models of a market-based economy are still so strong. Now, in 2014, my wife and I bought a farm. That's where I live now. It's in the south of Germany, close to the Swiss border, and we are growing medicinal herbs. So we built up our own business. We generated our own, created our own tea brand, which we're selling nationwide and even to the US. There's some clients on our online shop. And this is all Demeter quality, so it's biodynamic. And we are building a network of like-minded farmers around us who all share the same view. So, what you do in Colombia is kind of a role model for, good old Germany and Switzerland. And, I'm Brazilian by birth, and so I know the Southern Hemisphere quite well. I'm a Brazilian by heart. And so this can-do mentality and living on just on the bare minimum that you need to live is something I'm very familiar with. So what you are doing is great, and I'd like to be part of it. And if I can help with whatever, Dan, you just mentioned management skills, project management, organizational development, strategy development. That's all what I do, on a daily basis, and trying to build something new. So that's who I am. And I personally do have a little son who is 8 years old now, and I have two grown-up daughters, 32 and 28. So I'm spanning the different generations, and this is really very interesting to follow. Yeah, different mindsets, different approaches, and different challenges. So I really love it. I mean, life is not just dull; it's very rich.
Thank you, Hans. Would you like to pass forward?
Oh yes, Lisa, Jan. Or Jan, whatever.
Thank you, Hans. It's Jan.
Jan.
Well, I'm doing fine. This is an early morning meeting for me, and I usually am out doing watering in my garden and that because we've got heat and drought happening here. And I'm in the interior of British Columbia in the western part of Canada, in a small community here. Then I've been part of the Earth Regenerators community for quite a while. And so why am I here? I think when the request for pledge came out into the Earth Regenerators community, and there was, and further, the sense of how, like always, I'm looking at how do we interface the quality and the culture that we know is needed for transforming our values and relating to each other deeply and the earth deeply, that I think has really been part of what's been happening in the Earth Regenerators. How does that interface with decisions about money, finance of value, the stuff where the rubber hits the road that I think Rachel named well, always that interface and how that happens and how we do not trigger ourselves to go back into old patterns of modernity, because it's right there, like it buzzes right that interface. So that is completely of curiosity to me, and also of learning, and also of wanting to support that being done well. And so that's what pulls me in. And I, the way the pledge was requested and whatever, I had a lot of questions about, wasn't sure. When Pamela put out the suggestion that a group of us maybe from a bioregion could be part of as a member, then I went, well, that's a whole nother layer of complexity. Oh, I don't know. And okay, like this is what we need to be figuring out. So that's what made me step in. And so I'm really appreciating seeing the familiar faces and the new faces here. And already we're into like, oh, how do we do this relationship? And so, and also like I have just the last few days going, how come I'm adding yet another new piece of relating and sorting and understanding? Because I'm starting to feel a little bit maxed out, and I want to come into these situations with quality, not just like, okay, at this time of day, I've got this, I'm going to sort of show up. It's like how to really do this with integrity and depth. Whoa, how you do that, Joe?
Yeah.
It's a lot, or any of it, it's like Dad, Claire, it's just a lot of work. Anyway, I will pass this on to Pamela.
Woodland, you're up.
Good to see everybody here. I'm living on the unceded lands of the Quangan-speaking people of southeastern Vancouver Island. Support what you love. And all those things that Jan said too about the really important interface between all of those qualities of how it is we do things and what it is we do things, and really pleased that there is the opportunity that those that are who don't have the big scratch can come together and put in some other kind of model that allows us to participate in a different way, even if it might be a little bit confusing. Frankly, not being a numbers person on any scale, I had no idea of what the implications of this would be. So that's all very interesting. Really, earth regenerators and what is happening in Barichara and what that's modeling around the world it's so good to hear from you, Hans, and how you're inspired by what Joe is presenting through Barichara. And it's critical, it's important, and I've got nothing but a lot to learn from this. So I'm going to pass this on to Urvi, please.
Thank you, Pamela. I'm Urvi. I'm currently in India, where I grew up. I live in London. I've been around the sustainability block for the last decade, mainly in a corporate context. And then over the last year, have gone through this real journey of deepening in my commitment to be of service to the earth in a very real and profound way. And I just think what's happening in Barichara is such a prototype and a role model to learn from, that, yeah, I just wanted to be part of it and learn together with all of you. And this just really inspired. And, you know, listening and learning very keenly and using this to shape my next steps in a very practical way. So great to be here. And I will pass it to Gregory.
Hi, everyone. Nice to hear from you all and see you all. I've been bustling about doing some chores while I listen in. So yeah, hi everyone, I'm Gregory. I am one of the co-founders of Regen Network. And I think in the context of the Barichara community, yeah, I mean, there's probably two layers of introduction that are useful for folks. So one is that role that I have in helping steward the emergence of Regen Network, and I can talk a little bit about that. The other, though, is as a land steward and I guess longtime regenerative agroforestry practitioner. So some of my sub-community and I have been working in a small community in Ecuador with cacao growers for, I guess it's going on like 16 or 17 years now. It's been a while. And we were invited to purchase a piece of property in that community that we've been working with, both sourcing cacao, doing dynamic agroforestry work with the community, sort of bringing in, I guess you'd say, syntropic adjacent. It was before Ernst Dosch became sort of public that we were working on this. So it's a little different, but similar, chop and drop, and lots of work, little experiments with biochar, lots of different little things. So anyway, we were invited by who at that time was the village matriarch to purchase a piece of property that came up for sale in that community that they didn't want to go to outsiders. So a group of friends, including some Ecuadorians, and I bought that farm, and it still operates as an experimental agroforestry farm. And so I haven't been there since COVID. Before I would spend, a good chunk of every year there. So that's a part of my story that I think is sort of relevant for this kind of grassroots, place-based regeneration, community building, linkages with land stewardship practices and innovation on that level. The other hat that I wear, and this is maybe more on the meta system or infrastructure layer. And that's related to the work at Regen Network, in which we really started out with a question, which is how would we regenerate money, or that is to say the social construction of value, right? Just to get people out of thinking of dollars or even Bitcoin or whatever it is, but just like how communities come together and form some consensus about what value is and how to exchange, trade, make agreements and social contracts with one another with that tool. And I'm a believer that money is very, very, very ancient, just in terms of the social consensus. Like, this is not this sort of like, oh, first there was barter and then there was money sort of, story. It's actually, I think people have been creating a symbolic representation of trust I think it's essential to humanity on some level. It's very, very, very old. So how do we approach that now in this moment in the 21st century, and how do we regenerate it? Well, the answer to that's been evolving, we're trying to embed and encode in Regen Network. And so the vision there is to have an open network that allows for different specific communities to ask and answer that question in their own context, instead of trying to create kind of a global consensus about that from the get-go, or assuming that you can sort of design it all. The approach is actually to create tools for people to come together and essentially anchor agreements and create units of account, what we would call an eco credit, based out of ecological health. And a lot of that in this present moment looks like voluntary carbon credits that are purchased by corporations or other things, because there's an existing market, and that creates cash flow. Like, that creates real value that can land in the hands of land stewards. But if you take a step back, what we're really aiming for is to engage and drive innovation in which communities like the Barichara community are able to say, for us, this is what sort of a regeneration unit looks like, and this is how we verify it and produce it, and this is how it's created, and sort of be the owner operators of that infrastructure. So it's from both of those lenses that I wanted to participate in the pledge and kind of like deepen support of the place. I'm also pretty excited that it seems like maybe there's going to be some sort of in-person gathering related to sort of the refi stuff that's happening. So so with that, maybe I'll pass it on to Chad, if he hasn't already gone yet. I know I missed a few, so thank you.
I haven't, yeah, thank you. So I am I'm in Michigan, soon to visit family in Massachusetts, where I believe you are, Gregory. That's where I'm from. And I echo a lot of those sentiments in terms of thinking more deeply about what the nature of value is, and realizing that it's constructed and that we might construct it differently. So that's how I find myself here on one level, and the pledge community itself is one instance where that's playing out, and where we can make it play out at least. So before, just a couple weeks ago, I was in Barichara. I was there when we're drumming up some of these ideas for making this community, and happy to see it go forward. So so I'm of the philosophy that I want to live forward into the world that I want to exist, and I very much want to see Las Albercas happen, and Ecoversity and all of that, and I was in a position to contribute to the group, so I felt like that's the right way to be. And also seeing this pledge community as a place where we can experiment with those forms of how we create value together, and seeing this as on a higher level supportive of that work in the territories in Barichara, where that's very much in the works. So happy to be here and to playing part in the game. And I will pass it on to Matthew.
Thank you, Chad. Hi, everyone. It's really nice to see all of you. I'll preface this by saying it's been very beautiful to watch this process unfold. I was a newcomer to Earth Regenerators. I joined about a month and a half ago, after I think a winding journey, which is strangely connected to Gregory, probably much to his surprise. I currently work as a DAO facilitator in the Cosmos ecosystem in DeFi, actually. So we've heard a lot of talk about refi. I'm still in DeFi, looking forward to composting kind of this old system and helping transform it into the new system. A lot of my adult life has revolved around organization and different organizational methodologies. And so before I worked in DeFi, I was a kindergarten teacher, and I'm very happy to be here and to learn with everyone. And I also am in the process of, in September, I will be purchasing an abandoned plot of land in Portugal that I'm very happy to be starting a regenerative agroforestry project on. And yeah, it's wonderful to see the evolution and viability of this prototype, and looking forward to learning with everyone to creating this bioregional model and seeing how that plays out. And I will pass it on to JP.
Thank you. Great to have everyone here. I'm coming to you from the late evening on Whadjuk Noongar Boodja, the land of the Whadjuk-speaking peoples of the Noongar Nation in Western Australia, where as of last week, I have just become a permanent resident. So
Congratulations.
yay. So the land has said yes, and I'm invited in, and I'm feeling a bit dazed, actually, because of all of the opportunities that are opening before me now. And I know that I am here very largely to learn from the First Nations people what they know of custodianship and can share with us. And I've been fortunate to be blessed by a bunch of that knowledge, really a lot for a Canadian new to the country. So yes, why I'm here. Van Gogh said it really well. What is done in love is done well. And yeah, that's enough. Claire.
Thanks, JP. Yeah, I'm in southern Vancouver Island in Victoria, unceded lands of the Lekwungen speaking people. And yeah, I'm here probably Pam put out the call, and that was a good prompt. But I'm also I've worked at the grassroots for a long time, mostly as a community artist, but in community cultural development, and I've also worked at the policy level, and it's got much worse over the last, I'm going to say 15, 20 years, but there is very, very little actual financial funding for this kind of work. It happens off of the, we make a plan to make it happen, but there's incredible wealth. It's just that the financial flow isn't there. And yeah, so I'm really interested in how do we make this happen, because I'm fortunate enough to have been able to figure that out, but I want other people to be able to do that work too. And it's so important. So the more we can learn, and I'm excited that we're in this, and I'm so excited about the work that's happening at Earth Regenerators. It's just so amazing to have found a community that's bringing all of this together. So, and I think the last person left, well, actually, I don't think we've heard from Penny and Gail. Yeah, or maybe I'll pass to Penny right now.
Oh, I should put your name on here. I just
Oh,
realized
yeah.
I didn't do that when you arrived. Let me fix that as you speak.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Penny. I'm here in Barichara. I'm doing well. I'm just getting over being sick for a week, so I'm feeling happy to not be as sick. And I am here for many reasons. I think something I'm excited about is this interface between the online and then on the ground, and how do we do that? So I'm really here to play and experiment and learn and just be with all of you in this adventure. So yeah, that's me. So Gail.
Hi there. I'm in Queens, New York City. I've been, this month is my 2-year anniversary with Earth Regenerators. So I've been involved for a long time, done almost all of the learning journeys. I'm involved with a number of the groups, and so I always like to be part of what's happening on the ground. And I thank you, Pam, for coming up with a way to have people who can't necessarily hand over $1,000 still be involved, even though I'm not from Cascadia. I'm in the Cascadia group. And hopefully we do need a few more people if anyone wants to join us. We've got 5 and we're trying to get to 1,000. So we're each pledged $100. I do have, sorry about the phone. I do have a background in fundraising. I'm a grant writing consultant. And I also am a co-director of a nonprofit, One Earth Conservation. We do parrot conservation in Latin America. So I also bring the lens of biodiversity conservation and restoration to this project. And so I hope to, keep nudging people. You got to include that, got to include that, got to include that. And I am also reaching my max with Earth Regenerators too. So one last thing, which is through Joe, One Earth has been invited to participate in a training with Pro Social World, which we're really excited. Joe, are you in the training too? I saw Earth Regenerators mentioned in a document.
Technically, yes, but then I stay busy.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, so I look forward to bringing what I learned there, both to One Earth and to Earth Regenerators. So I think that's it then.
Yeah, no, thank you, everyone. It's so important for us to have this space to start getting to know each other and to feel into, and I just mean feel into, like dipping your pinky toe into the potential and the capacity of the people in this group, because it should already be obvious that money gathered by the pledge community is the least valuable part of the pledge community. And that should become increasingly evident as we find different ways to collaborate. Because one of the things that has been unclear in Earth Regenerators, and I would just say in my life in general for the last 2 years, has been how does my work, Joe's work in quotes, relate to the global work, where Joe's work in quotes actually implies a whole bunch of people on the ground in Barichara that are not me, just because I'm a storyteller who stands in for it. And so one thing I want to start to do today, and I'm going to spend a couple minutes, I'll go into presentation mode, and I just put together a few slides. But I've been holding since March of 2020 an idea for how to create an Earth Regeneration Fund with bioregional investment platforms. And the idea of the bioregional investment platform for me began with work I did with Stuart Cowan while we were working together at the Capital Institute in 2018, 2019. And so what I want to share with you now, and Gregory, I'm so glad you're here because you'll see yourself in this, is I want to share an integrated model that is coming into being, blending what Common Land Foundation has done for holistic integrated landscape management, what we did with the Barichara Regeneration Fund to prototype a bioregional process, what we're learning to do with the Regen Foundation, and a possible use of our endowment, that of 500,000 Regen tokens, and what has been emerging in the ER Fund through the distributed governance and how it relates to bioregional catalysts and the project incubator, which is to say that there are a lot of things that are incoherent right now. And just this morning, when I put together one slide, and then I shared the image of that slide in the Telegram chat, everything sort of fell into place for me. Like, this is a way it all could fit together. It doesn't have to be this, but just when my mind does that, it's like candy. And so So I want to share this with you and show you that we have a way of prototyping across alliances that can land into the refi event that'll be physically here in Barichara in the first week of October. And I want to invite all of you in the pledge community to come to that event if you're able to join us in Barichara from the 3rd through the 7th of October. And we'll have more opportunities to talk about that soon. But today I just want to show you this model, because for me, this model starts to create a coherence of what we might do together that's so much bigger than what we could have imagined even a few weeks ago, just because of the coherence and the moment that we're in. And so I'm going to go into presentation mode, and I'll try and do all of this in about 10 minutes because I want to give a clear enough image. I'll take 10 minutes and then we can have some discussion around it. But in 20 minutes, I have to go because we have a host team call for the current ER learning journey. And so I'll need to go for that. So I don't want to like drop a big meme bomb and then have to walk away. But maybe that's actually for the best anyway, because what I'm about to share with you is so complex, we need to sit with it anyway. And it's not really clear. It's clear conceptually as a story, but how to actually do it is so complex, as you'll see, that it'll probably generate a lot of questions. And I hope it does. And so with that in mind, I want to share with you what I put together this morning. And some of it may be a little familiar, and then the rest will be new. So I want to start by saying that when Willem Verweerda was here from Common Land last week, he made it very clear that we need to create a narrative about the bioregion or the territory we're in, and we need to actually map it. And I have a way that I've mapped Barichara from the very beginning that I just want to share with you as the container. It's like a geographic container. So what you see here is a 3D relief map of the terrain for Colombia, and these are the mountains of the Northern Andes. And where we're looking at Barichara and the bioregion we're working in is this area right here. It's basically a 500,000 hectare region that we could think of as an integrated landscape, meaning we can integrate things within this landscape. And if you were to ask, what is the purpose of the Barichara Ecoversity? It's to create learning coherence within this 500,000 hectares of land. And of course, it's a well-defined regional climate system. And that's how I was able to define its geography. That the 3 mountain ranges, the one on the west side, and then this 2 sets of the triangle on the right side, create a closed climatic system where it's currently in the process of becoming desert due to deforestation. But if we can create a regenerative economy within this area, it actually can regenerate not only the territory, but the climate system as well. And so I just wanted you to have in mind that while I didn't draw these boundaries really close, I just wanted you to get a mental image that there's a conceptual container for the territory. That's a 500,000 hectare region with a self-contained climate system and a one-of-a-kind high Andes tropical dry forest. There are other tropical dry forests, but there's only one high Andes tropical dry forest. This is a unique ecosystem, about 80% endemic, 8 out of 10 species only exist here, and at least 7,000 years of human habitation. So 7,000-year cultural history. But I just wanted you to see this because the rest I'm going to talk about will seem conceptual, but we need to know that it's for this landscape. And then from this landscape for any other landscape that we might take the model to. So this is what I came up with. I've talked about bioregional investment platforms for more than 2 years, but I want to show you what one looks like. And I've defined it as having 2 parts because these 2 parts are becoming coherent, just meaning there's a story we can tell about them because they haven't been built. On the left in blue is an integrated landscape model. And I would say the integrated landscape model is the model I'll show in more detail in a moment as an investment framework developed by Common Land Foundation. And then I've blended that with what we've done with the Barichara Regeneration Fund and what we're doing with the Ecoversity. So I just want to name the parts. When I talk about the Common Land model, the Common Land model has a core team, has 4 returns, which I'll talk about those in more depth in a moment, and land use zones. So just know that those 3 pieces, the core team, the 4 returns, and the land use zones, is something Common Land Foundation created for integrated landscape management at the scale of 100,000 hectares or larger over a span of 20 years or longer. And we'll see that model in a moment. When you combine that with what I had called the Earth Regeneration Fund back in 2020, which was to create a way of creating community land banks grounded into a portfolio of projects and defined through their ecological connectivity in the territory. Those pieces are what we've created with the Barichara Fund. And we've been prototyping for the last year and a half. And that is like one detailed expression or one way of expressing what the common land model could be. And when we talk about the Barichara Ecoversity, that's what I call the learning ecosystem here. The learning ecosystem is a bioregional learning center, a network and integrated approach to learning to support the spread of regenerative practices, what we've called the ecoversity. So just to say that everything I've said about ecoversities and bioregional learning centers is under the name learning ecosystem. Everything Common Land Foundation does with 15 different landscapes by creating a core team, defining 4 returns, and creating zones of land use, those are integrated into this model. And the way that we've been prototyping in Barichara, how to create a portfolio of projects and map them around what we call biosocial or biocultural corridors of connectivity is integrated into this, which is just to say any bioregional investment platform needs all of these. It needs all of them. It needs to create a learning ecosystem with a learning center or a network of learning centers. It needs a core team that holds the process for the long term. It needs to have more than financial return. It needs to have ecological return, social return, and economic return, as well as financial return, where economic and financial are not the same. And then it needs land use zones to say you create an integrated picture of the entire landscape where different zones have different focus, and that it contains a portfolio of projects, but those projects are not isolated. They're connected and integrated into the landscape. If you do anything less than this, your bioregional investment platform probably won't work. But because of the conversations we've been having in the crypto world, and some of it's been with Regen Network and Regen Foundation, and some of it's been with the Community Endowment project that Regen Foundation created, gifting us 500,000 Regen tokens for us to figure out what to do with. And because I've been talking a lot with Antonio Paglino about this in the last few months, and he's been working for several years on how to create tools within the crypto space for bioregional development, we have a way of blending things. And for me, this Validator liquidity pool combines 2 areas. It combines everything we've been doing in Earth Regenerators with the Regenerative Project Incubator and with the Earth Regenerators Fund governance process and with bioregional catalysts. So when I say Project Incubator here, I say, this is what we birthed out of a learning journey in regenerative finance last year. And for more than a year, the Project Incubator has been providing social supports for people to create projects or to change their personal lives. Like Penny's project was her own life within the Project Incubator. That we need a Project Incubator that cultivates and supports human relationships to lead into transformational projects supported by people. But at the same time, we need bioregional weavers, which is the bioregional focus on how do we become weavers, how do we map out territories, how do we tell the story of place, everything that's been happening in the bioregional catalyst part of Earth Regenerators. And then we need what I call liquid governance, which is what the ER Fund governance group has been creating. How do you define roles for making decisions? How do you connect the different parts of your ecosystem? How does trust and connection between people allow value exchanges to flow? And specifically, because Travis Kriplian is an old friend of mine and an active member of Earth Regenerators, to take the idea of liquid democracy or voting by proxy as a way of allocating resources. And the liquid governance blends into the Web3 crypto world because DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations, and NFTs, non-fungible tokens, enable us to identify that your NFT is your individual vote. If you have a vote, you can't give it to someone else. You only get one vote. It's non-fungible, but you can allocate your vote by proxy through an agreement, which in the lingo of crypto would be called a smart contract. And a DAO is just a bunch of people agreeing to make decisions together with some kind of governance. So when we combine the governance that's happening in ER with the project incubator, the funding we had earlier this year, and bioregional catalysts, and you connect it to this potential to have DAOs and NFTs be voting systems, then we can do something really special, which is this. In the crypto world, there's a thing called validator and a thing called staking. And validating and staking relate to a thing called liquidity pools. If you're confused, that's okay. Just think of it this way. A validator is simply someone within the ecosystem that validates that something's occurred and someone else could check it to be sure it happened. It's basically a way of guaranteeing that when we say something happened, it actually occurred. Staking is a way of saying, I have some crypto, some part of the crypto economy that's valuable, and I'm going to loan it to someone else through an agreement that says they can use it to achieve some purpose. And that staking allows to create a liquidity pool because multiple people can stake into the same pool. And this creates staking returns because the validators generate value by increasing the integrity of the whole system. Now, I'm sharing this with you because one of the ideas we've been flirting with for the last few months is that we are receiving 500,000 Regen tokens from the Regen Foundation. We're already planning to stake all 500 of those tokens and generate staking returns, which is just to say, we maintain an endowment of 500,000 tokens, we generate new tokens by putting them into a liquidity pool with staking returns, and then we can pull out those staking returns to give money to support people and projects doing regenerative work. That's the staking returns. But here's the beautiful thing. We need to stake with a validator node. We have to stake with someone who creates a server in the system. So one of the ideas we've been flirting with is to create an Earth Regenerators node and to actually put all 500,000 Regen tokens into it, but then connected to it, create a DAO. Let me just translate this. We have 500,000 tokens. We put them into an endowment that generates a financial return. But then we create a collective governance process, a way of making decisions together to decide what to do with the staking returns. Now, why would we do this instead of just staking with someone else? Because we can define the governance of how those staking returns are used. And then we can invite other people to stake with us and increase our staking returns. So we might put 500,000 Regen tokens into a validator liquidity pool, and then invite other people to stake with us and participate in governance. Now, Gregory could talk at length about how Regen Network explicitly designed the Regen token to do this, so that governance and value are integrated into the politics of the economy. And they explicitly created Regen Foundation to create a part of the Regen network that is collectively owned and governed as an experimental place to do this. So by creating an Earth Regenerators node and server, we can actually build core infrastructure of Regen Network while generating continual staking returns as revenue to support regenerative projects. Now, the beauty of this is when we combine this to an integrated landscape model, we actually are prototyping how to regenerate bioregions. And this relates to what Gregory mentioned about ecological system states and how you say each community says what regeneration means to them. By prototyping this, it could be replicated for different bioregions. But also, we can use this between now and the event in the beginning of October to raise money for the model I'm about to show you in Barichara. And then after we've succeeded at raising that money, a different smart contract can be created and the liquidity returns could go to something else. And that's the liquid part of this. It can flow wherever it's needed. So we're looking at creating a way of building our own governance and financing system connected to whole landscapes. This is really big, what I'm talking about. So I just want you to know that there is a potential integration for a regenerative financial system with regenerative development at landscape scale by connecting these pieces. And everything I'm saying here is me stealing someone else's ideas and just putting them onto a puzzle piece. They're pieces of the puzzle on the page. So I did not invent anything here. I'm just putting it together to say we want to prototype this in real world practice. So this is the integrated landscape model of common land. they've identified 5 key landscape processes. First, you establish a landscape partnership, which means people in the landscape form a core team and they partner with Common Land as a landscape. And this allows them to reach a shared understanding of what the landscape is, how they define their territory, what their regenerative futures are that they're striving toward, and that allows them to build a landscape plan, which is 20 years or longer. And because they have this partnership, a shared understanding, and a long-term plan, this ensures effective implementation of that plan. And from that implementation and planning, they can develop monitoring and learning. And they do this around 4 returns: the return of inspiration, social returns by creating jobs, businesses, networks, social prosperity, natural returns, which is restoring ecosystem health in a variety of ways, and financial returns, long-term sustainable local incomes. And they do this by creating 3 different zones. They call the natural zone the places where you just maintain native forests of the region and native ecology. Combined zone is where you do things like agroforestry, where you're blending nature conservation with economic development. Economic zones are places like urban boundaries or places where you can't easily conserve the rest of natural ecology, but by focusing on densifying those, you're able to have transfer of value to the conservation of the natural zones. And they do this over 20-year or longer timeframes. So if you take an integrated landscape model like this is the model that I showed in the video of the Great Transition the other day, that you have investment levels on the vertical and time on the horizontal, and you're looking at 20+ years. And the foundation of it all is having a core team of people in the landscape supported for a minimum 20 years, and that you support regenerative projects that don't need to create a financial return until 8 to 10 years into the process. Financially viable regenerative models begin to emerge, and only then does government support and other kinds of local community support grow on top of it. And this is the model that Common Land developed. And so the core team needs about $500,000 per year per landscape. They're the ones that hold the process. This is how they manage the risk of the entire landscape. And this is what makes holistic landscape management possible. And so we need to create this instrument, this investment instrument for every single landscape. But that's where the Validator liquidity pool becomes really interesting, is by collaborating with Regen Network and Regen Foundation, as we already implicitly are, and by organizing an event in October where people like Sev from Regen Network is one of the people creating models of these local community exchanges for measuring ecological system state changes. He's already saying he wants to give a workshop at the event that's going to happen in Barichara. That what we're going to begin to do is design how the 500,000 Regen tokens we get from Regen Foundation, together with the on-the-ground work we'll be doing between now and October, and using that in-person event in the first week of October, we're going to create an Earth Regenerators node by starting with the endowment of 500,000 Regen tokens, create our own staking node, structure a liquidity pool, which is basically a way for people to enter into joint ventures or joint investments with us. And the staking rewards go to Regen people and projects because of the way we govern it. This is what the ER Fund Governance Group has been working on since October of last year. How do we govern the sharing of financial capacity to support people and projects through things like the Project Incubator? This is where we weave with the ER Fund Governance Group and what they've been developing. And we blend this into the Project Incubator of Earth Regenerators and connect it to other project incubators, like the Regen Foundation is working with 7 community endowments, and Earth Regenerators is only 1. So we can create project incubators with the other groups. And then we invite friends from the Web3 crypto world, because they're all coming to this event in October. And we're already inviting people like Jeff Emmett from Common Stack, who's here in this pledge community, but isn't here today, and others from the global networks to help us create this. So I just wanted you to see this, because what we are doing here is we are connecting the dots between people in the alternative finance, alternative economics, and alternative governance space, which goes by the shorthand of Web3, the next generation internet, where people have created a variety of tools that enable scalable distribution and allocation of resources, measurement and verification of value. But they have not been doing it, for the most part, they have not been doing it in real world contexts. And so we're organizing a 5-day event, October 3rd through 7th. We're going public today to invite people to enroll. And I want all of you to come if you're able to join us for 5 days to go visit field sites in the Barichara territory and then explore what it means to design these kinds of tools in the real world context so that we can create this prototype. And one of the reasons for doing this is that the social liquidity of crypto is more fluid than fiat currency. What I mean is psychologically, people think of crypto as a game or as a toy, and the money moves more easily. And it moves more easily because of the psychological baggage people have with money. And so we're in a place where there are people who have accumulated wealth with crypto that are looking for these models. Like when I mentioned we have a Telegram group that's designing the refi event in Barichara. And there's a guy named Marcelo Silva who's helping create a network of events called Refi Spring. And when I told him about creating a validator pool, he said, I'll throw $5,000 into that right away. I'll contribute to your liquidity pool. That I think a lot of people are going to jump into this because we have a governance process for incubating projects and vetting the legitimacy of the human beings doing the work, which is what we've been doing in Earth Regenerators. And we connect that to the biggest problem with crypto is that most of the tools are to replace relationships because there isn't trust. If you don't have trust, use blockchain. But in local communities, we can use tools like blockchain to verify things to the outside world when all the activities happen in real trust networks of human beings. And then investors will feel like their risks are being managed. And that will allow capital to be unlocked and to move. And so what I'm talking about here is a different way of building economic systems. And all of it is about learning. And like I said, I'm dropping a meme bomb and then I'm going to have to go because we have another call starting right now. But what I wanted you to see, and I'll have the recording to share with all of you later, is that we actually have all of the relationships on hand to do all of this right now. And I just, because I've been name dropping to Gregory, I just want to thank you for being the first person to offer me crypto tokens. Gregory offered me 500 Regen tokens back in December. And that was when Antonio helped me set up a Kepler wallet. And then after that, they sent Regen Foundation to us to do work. And I just want you to know that I take that very seriously, Gregory. Take that very seriously. We have a lot of responsibility. And so what we're going to be doing in Barichara is prototyping a real world bioregional example and raising the funds to do this in the next few months.
Woohoo!
So just to say that. And the landing of this to Las Albercas, the way that we prototyped it with the advisory council in Barichara to distribute funds, how we're creating a territorial foundation, all these other pieces just increase the likelihood that we can actually attract the outside interest to do this. And to then have it shared because people will be watching. So just wanted you to know that this is every day it's more clear. Every day it's one step closer to being integrated, but we're in this now. And the learning journey for us is this pledge community. Because as Jan said, building the capacity for quality relationships and holding them as we do this, thank you for saying that, Jan. We've got to figure out how to do that while we do things this big and complex, because it's needed. And so I hate to say I've got to go. I could pass hosting on to someone else if others want to stay and have a chat, but I think it might just be good to sit with us. I'll share the video. If there's anyone you need to share the recording with later, share it with them. And we're going to start building this as of today. We're starting. And so thank you all for being here and making it possible to dream this way. And I got to run because I'm neglecting another group. But here we are and onward we go. Thank you, everyone.